Hello everybody, my name is Ian Kirkpattykake. I am an author and robot, and I am not at all tired today. Can you see it in my eyes? Like, those late nights where, it doesn't even have to be late night, whatever, where you put your phone on the wireless charging pad, but it's kind of like slightly off, so it doesn't actually charge, but you fall asleep thinking that it's charging, or in the off chance that or in the chance that you don't have the wireless charger, you know, you're like blindly phone in one hand, cord in the other, and you do kind of this thing and you think you got it, and then you just push it on the side, and then you pass out, and then when you wake up, no battery in your phone. That's me. Literally, because I'm a robot. Anyway, today we have book news, but like quite a lot of book news. Like actually quite a bit has happened in book and entertainment in general industry. And I obviously cannot cover everything that happened in entertainment over the last week, but I'll cover the stories that came up that I can think of. And if you have any news that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments down below, or send me an email through my website. And I think there's that. But before we get started, new month is coming up. If you missed the December submissions to join the Patty Wagon, guess what? January prompt time is up. Lemoy, join it. Join episode by episode 4. We have a good time. Episode 3 coming up on Thursday. So if you're interested in that, link is in the description down below with a brand new prompt for January. And without further ado, let's get started on the stories. Number 1, can I get a quick F's in the comments, in the chats for Pirates of the Caribbean? It's dead now, like for real. Like we thought maybe all of the sequels killed it. No, it's kind of been officially announced that the main personality of Pirates of the Caribbean, the guy that kind of built the franchise with his character and his personality, Johnny Depp, has been removed from Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's going to replace him with Margot Robbie. And also, it says a female-led Pirates of the Caribbean will have lots of girl power. It's also going around that the infamous, talented? Author, writer, screenplay, whatever, of Birds of Prey is going to also be writing this new girl power Pirates of the Caribbean. So F's in the chat for the newest victim of story counterfeiting. Why they couldn't just come up with a brand new story for female pirates, I'd say I don't know, but it's specifically because they could not sell this if they weren't trying to trick you that it's related to Pirates of the Caribbean, or get you to respond with, your fondness for Johnny Depp. So, sad. Story number 2 is an update from last week. I covered how Audible was offering like a year-long return policy for any of their Audible books, and then that return policy would not pay the authors for the books that were returned. Meanwhile, Audible/Amazon was just collecting all of the money from the memberships. And if you recall, there were a handful of author organizations from North America that had banded together to write a letter to ACX and Audible about how they were treating authors and about the unfairness of this, and how it was also more like a book borrowing, book renting service where they were not paying the authors. Anyway, there has been an update to that case, and Audible has changed their program for the authors. ACX sent out an email earlier to authors who are involved in the program, and as you know, we've been working to address some ACX authors' concerns about Audible's overall exchange policy, and we appreciate your feedback. And The intent of this program is to allow listeners to discover their favorite voice, author, or story in audio. In instances where we determine the benefit is being overused, Audible can and does limit the number of exchanges and refunds allowed by members, but as designed, the customer benefit allows active Audible members in good standing to take a chance on new content, and suspicious activity is extremely rare. We hope this helps convey perspective for our value writers and ACX partners as to impact our current return policy policies. However, in recognition of these concerns moving forward and effective as of January 1st, 2021, Audible will pay royalties for any title returned more than 7 days following purchase. This adjustment does not impact our customers' current benefits of membership, and we look forward to continuing to welcome millions of first-time listeners, enabling our members to discover new content they enjoy and growing the audiences for our valued creative partners. So, basically, they have caved to the author's concerns, and they now will only give a refund from the author's pocket if it's within 7 days. It's going to be interesting to see if they push the return policy quite as much as they did before. Now, if it's going to end up being ACX and Audible that has to pay out of pocket for their year-long return policy. So, good for all of the authors, organizations and authors that came together to make a statement about this, because obviously change did happen. Obviously not everything that was asked for happened, but the most important thing, which was it's no longer a year's worth of consume this book and then return it, and at the cost of the author. Now, I don't know if you heard about this. I don't know if you follow the news very much. I don't know if you follow political voices very much, but Jordan Peterson is kind of, I don't know, an alternative voice. I don't need to go into his full background. He just didn't want to be compelled to speech that he didn't agree with, and that's kind of how he rose to fame. And then he wrote a self-help book a year or two ago called 12 Rules for Life or 10 Rules for Life, and now he's got a new book coming out, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life, which was announced on Monday and is being published by Penguin and Random House. And random employees at Penguin Random House were not happy about this, because obviously Jordan Peterson somehow became a controversial person by just saying, I don't want to use pronouns that I don't agree with. I think that was the big thing that launched him. And then he just kind of took off as a far-right figure, where he's not really actually far-right. He is of Kathy What's-Her-Face. So what you're saying is fame, but it was announced this last week that he is releasing his second book from Penguin Random House called Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. His first book, 12 Rules for Life, was a massive bestseller, and it was more or less just a self-help book in ways to give kind of guidance and focus for people, and it seemed to really help certain people. So, that's what publishers do. Publishers are meant to make money, to publish books that are meant to make money, to keep, the presses going. Well, according to Vice, employees confronted management at a town hall regarding the company's decision to publish a book. I feel like we've heard this before, like last year when I mentioned them doing this to Woody Allen, they had a bunch of employees at that publishing house that threw a tantrum, and then the publishing house eventually cut the book because they decided that it was important to not make their random employees cry, as opposed to being a publishing house. 4 of the employees spoke with Vice regarding the town hall and the dramatic scene of dismayed employees. Several employees cried at the meeting. People are dying from COVID, losing their businesses, and these spoiled brats transform into babies because their employer is publishing a book they don't like. Jonathan Kay said on Twitter. I have no idea who Jonathan Kay is. That's just a tweet that's in this article. One employee said people were crying in the meeting about how Jordan Peterson has affected their lives. One coworker allegedly discussed how Peterson has radicalized their father. Another talked about how publishing the book will negatively affect their non-binary friends. One junior employee aggressively accused Peterson of being transphobic. Quote, he is an icon of hate speech and transphobia, and the fact that he's an icon of white supremacy, regardless of the content of his book. I'm not proud to work for a company that publishes him. Citations needed. Again, he rose to fame by saying, I don't feel like I should be compelled to say something that I don't believe in or don't agree with or don't want to say. And that's kind of where they go. He's anti-trans. Go live your life, but don't tell me how to talk. That's kind of as far as I know about him. The employees also pledged that Penguin Random House intentionally kept the publication a secret, even hiding it in the internal database. Quote, "I feel it was deliberately hidden and dropped on us once it was too late to change course," said the employee. Staff believe this is the case, even though the production of this book has been announced for years. The employees also accused the publisher of seeking a profit. No way. A company is seeking profit, but also I would like to know what the normal means of announcing inside of a company are when you're publishing, because Penguin Random House is a very, very big company, and I would think that announcements of books being published might stick to the areas where they manage that genre. So if you work in a different genre, you're not necessarily going to hear this. Also, if you're like an intern, you're not necessarily going to hear this. And it sounds like a lot of self-importance is in here and thinking that they need to know everything or be told everything when they probably don't. But also, if they accuse the publisher of seeking a profit. Do you know what a publishing house does? Like, this is why none of these employees are ever going to run a business of their own, because they just run it into the ground. It's not about a profit. Yes, it is. Books are about profits. One of the reasons why there's such a big problem in the publishing industry right now with agents is that agents are trying to pick trends rather than finding what people want to read. And so they're pushing where they want culture to go, and people are not reading books as much because they don't want to have politics shoved in their books. But big publishers keep shoving politics in their books. My gosh, the sin of a company trying to make a profit by publishing a book. You know what? Who is the current publisher of Mein Kampf? All I can say is Hitler's apparently getting not great reviews on his biography. Poor guy. Getting back to the news, they're not going to acknowledge. One of the employees said they're not going to acknowledge the reason they're doing it is for money. I feel that would be the more honest route to go rather than making up excuses for Jordan Peterson. Did they make up excuses? This didn't even say that they did make excuses. And yes, they're doing it for profit. They're a big publisher. This is what pays, like, the profitable projects are what pay for the more experimental projects or the projects that don't make money. The executives of the company widely defended Peterson. Publisher Ann Collins talked about how Peterson has, quote, helped millions of people who are on the fringes of society who would otherwise be radicalized by alt-right groups, end quote. Nonetheless, the employees felt that she was trying to kind of spin it as a positive to be publishing this book. I mean, publishing a specific book doesn't have to be a positive or a negative. You're pushing out an idea. It's not your idea. You don't have to agree with everything you publish. And I've mentioned this before in other videos, where if you set, and I think I did this specifically with the Woody Allen video too, is if you set up this standard where you have to agree with everything that you publish, then if I find something abhorrent in a book that is published by your publisher, then I have to assume that you agree with those ideas, because that's the standard that you've set up. You don't have to agree with every idea that writers have when you publish their book. You don't have to agree with every idea that an agent has in order to work with them to publish an author's book. You don't have to agree with everything that's put inside of a book. I mean, hello, are we gonna go and look at J.R.R. Martin and be like, oh, so the publishers agree and very, very much enjoy this, like, rape and violence and incest and everything that happens in those because they published it, so it means that they're on board with that stuff, right? That's not how this works. Publishers aren't publishing morality, and when you do this, you're trying to turn businesses into a church that says whether you can be an attendee because you have the right morality according to those in control, or you don't. But the article goes on, he's the one who is responsible for radicalizing and causing the surge of alt-right groups, especially on university campuses. Again, all he did was say, don't compel me or force me to say things I don't want to say. The employees are demanding the publication be canceled, and if they cannot prevent the cancellation, they demand profits from the book go to LGBT organizations. Now, first, the book comes out March 2nd, 2021, if anybody is interested, but as a regular employee of anything, I've never had a say in how a company was run. If I didn't like how my manager treated or worked in a room, if I didn't like how my manager treated me or the team or how my department worked, my options were to leave. what is with these people that think that they can cry in the hallway and then that they have some kind of power over the businesses that they work at? They're angry that Penguin Random House wants to make a profit. Do they know if Penguin and Random House were not making a profit, they wouldn't have a job? When are we going to start seeing companies starting to, like these companies, cut people that think that they have this kind of pull, that they can just cry and call you racist or call you some kind of whatever ism to then get the way that they want? It's so childish, and it's not how the real world works. But, you know, that's me. Let me know if your experiences in the workforce have been any different, where you could just, you know, maybe be the cashier at McDonald's and then say you don't like how something is run, you don't like how the Twitter account is run, and so they need to fix it or else you're gonna start up a storm. Then some much bigger news that happened this week was that Viacom CBS is selling Simon & Schuster, and Penguin Random House has put in an offer of $2.18 billion, and the transaction is expected to close in 2021. Now, this is happening because Viacom CBS has huge debt that they want to pay off. Simon & Schuster is actually profitable. A couple of articles that I've read talked about how it's made money the last, couple of years, so it's not draining them. You know what's probably draining them? All of their news media channels, because they have a lot. They also have Paramount, which isn't doing anything this year except for that Sonic atrocity, which probably lost them a bunch of money when they had to redo the design. And are they doing the Clifford the Big Red Dog? I'm pretty sure they're doing the Clifford the Big Red Dog, and I've seen people freaking out about that, just the same that they freaked out about Sonic. Viacom CBS also owns Nickelodeon, it also owns BET, it also owns MTV, and why do we think MTV is failing? Because they don't do what they set out to do originally. So, this especially is worrisome because we're taking the Big Five down into now it's going to be the Big Four, and it gets us closer to a monopoly, which we're already there anyway, with just a handful of big publishers out there to work with if you want to go traditional publishing that's not a small or an indie press. News Corp, which owns publisher HarperCollins, also put a bid on Simon & Schuster, and so that is another one of the Big Five. Big Five now going on to Big Four. This literary leviathan would have 70% of the U.S. literary and general fiction market. There will certainly be legal books written about this deal, though I wonder if Bertelsmann would publish them. So one of the problems with this, whether it's HarperCollins or Penguin Random House that purchases it, is that we have laws against monopolies here in America, and so the anti-market laws wouldn't allow for so much property to be given to just a handful of people. However, a lot of companies actually get around the monopoly laws by leaving the names of these businesses that they purchase up the same, giving this illusion that there are more options when there aren't. In a statement made by News Corp CEO Robert Thompson, he said, "There is clearly no market logic to a bid of the size that's going on with Simon & Schuster, only anti-market logic. Bertelsmann is not just buying a book publisher, but buying market dominance as a book behemoth. Distributors, retailers, authors, and readers would be paying for this proposed deal for a very long time to come." Currently, Penguin Random House accounts for around 25% of all print books sold in the United States. Simon & Schuster accounts for 9.1%, and HarperCollins counts for 11%. Now, the other big issue that I see, or am imagining, with the big behemoth purchase of the book marketplace is that big publishers are getting more and more resistant to publishing new ideas or risky ideas or new directions. They want stuff that is up for sure sale, which will mean either known names and or only safe ideas from new names. But it's a lot more likely that they will only or majority pick up stuff that are guaranteed bestsellers or brand name authors. And that's what New York Times here says. It says the sale of the company will profoundly shape the publishing industry, increasing a winner-take-all business in which the largest companies compete for brand name authors and guaranteed bestsellers. So they're not necessarily going to go for new ideas, which could be the next bestseller. You know, when Bret Easton Ellis pitched American Psycho, he thought it was going to be a cult classic with only a very small following. He had no idea that it was going to be a bestseller because of just the kind of risk that it was. And as the publishing houses kind of go into one group, they're going to, and it's going to go in cost, they're going to want sure things, and they're going to rely on names only. New York Times continues that the book business has seen wave after wave of consolidation in the past decade with the merger of Penguin and Random House, as I've already mentioned. In 2013, News Corp's purchase of romance publisher Harlequin and Hachette Book Group's acquisition of Perseus Books. This fall, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt announced that it would be exploring sale of its trade publishing division, and it would be an attractive target for a large publishing company like Macmillan or Hachette. So again, more destruction of publishers. Simon & Schuster, which publishes prominent authors like Stephen King, Don DeLillo, Bob Woodward, Doris Kearns Goodwin, and Walter Isaacson, have been rumored to be the next big had long been rumored to be the next big company to be put up for sale, and it made for an attractive prize for large publishers whose houses seeking to grow through acquisitions. It has a vast backlist of more than 30,000 titles. Not only will the acquisition expand the number of titles Penguin Random House puts out, it will expand its already extremely powerful distribution network. Penguin Random House will likely follow the same playbook it did after Random House acquired Penguin 7 years ago. A part of a privately held German media conglomerate, Bertelsmann PRH, can move slowly and deliberately as it integrates Simon & Schuster. That's what a company did during the Random House Penguin merger, moving at a snail's pace and free from investors' demands to take quick action. There were more merger-related layoffs than media coverage suggested, and PRH has shuttered imprints, particularly adventurous literary ones like Spiegel and Grau and Blue Rider. But they all happened so slowly that few connected them to the merger itself. The company only just got all of its employees under one roof at 1745 Broadway. It's unclear if it'll be able to accommodate another large publishing company at that address, but this is a good time to be in the market for commercial real estate in Manhattan. Job cuts are inevitable in almost any merger and should be expected here, along with the shuttering and consolidation of imprints, even if that process is slow. Further consolidations won't just lead to layoffs, but it'll also likely put authors in a worse position as they have fewer potential buyers to negotiate with. Again, this goes to how it's bad that there are so few publishers to work with. Though it is not solely responsible, the bottom has fallen out of the market in mid-list books over the last decade, creating a system in which best-selling authors are making millions, while publishers' middle class has been decimated. The conglomerate publishing industry's increasing obsession with bestsellers has also left many more adventurous projects to Ella, which is something that I just expressed, where they're going to go for the brand name book products, where they're going to go with the Stephen Kings because Stephen King's name recognition will sell books, but they're not going to try anything with new people. They're not going to look for the next bestseller. They're just going to keep with the current people that can just already slap bestseller on them and their names sell the books. In our current Amazon-dominated sales landscape, mega bestsellers are more valuable to publishers than ever before. By acquiring arguably the best blockbuster publisher of the last few years and adding it to the companies increasingly built around acquiring, marketing, and selling big books, Penguin Random House is setting itself up to be the historical dominant force. Quote, "There are projects that would have sold for $150,000 years ago that might not sell at all now to the big five, whereas the book that would have to be sold for $500,000 might go for $1 million, a literary agent David Kuhn told the New York Times. They would rather go in bigger for the thing that they have the most consensus on. Those trends will only accelerate in the coming years. Even if Penguin Random House continues its policy of allowing its imprints to bid against one another for books with some limitations, adding several more imprints into the fold will inevitably constrain competition and have a negative effect on advances." So this is becoming less and less of a reason to go with publishing. The only real thing that you get ahead right now with traditional publishing is that they front the costs, and they can get your book in a bookstore at no cost to you. Now, that's not to say when you self-publish or indie publish, you can't get your book in the bookstore. But typically, how bookstores choose to purchase your book is if you allow them to return your books if they don't sell. And that means, you might get paid up front, but then you might have to pay returns later if the bookstores return the books. And so that's why a lot of indie and self-published authors don't allow for returns. Imagine a Barnes & Noble buying 500 books all at once, and then you have to pay for not only the cost for returns, or the price of those books, but also to ship the books. And that can be a really big hit to indie or self-published authors. What I see in this is more opportunity than pessimism, as it gives way for new publishers in the industry or for indie publishing to step up and fill in where the competition is disappearing, because you can't have indie publishing. Because indie publishing can be competitive, and it's going to be where you go for daring and fresh ideas if you don't go to like the older stuff of the last couple of decades. If this is the trend that traditional publishing is going to go, then you know that you're not really going to get anything new or fresh or daring from traditional publishing. And that is really, one, it's a shame, and two, you're not living up to what books and publishers should be doing, which is presenting new ideas, challenging ideas, and of course making a profit. But you're just, like, what are you going to do when there's no longer Stephen King? The article continues that some in the industry have suggested a potential silver lining. A Penguin Random House Simon & Schuster mega publisher will be better positioned to take on the most dangerous force in the industry, Amazon. It could, in this thinking, use its might to garner better terms or to fight back against the steep discounting, which has had a deleterious effect on physical bookstores. But PRH has never used its gargantuan scope to challenge Amazon. I'm wondering what would happen if bookstores, physical bookstores, started purchasing more indie stuff. Because one of the ways that Amazon has that lead a little bit is that they have the daring stuff, whereas the bookstores may not, unless you special order it. Like Dead End Drive, you can special order from Bookshop or from Barnes & Noble or from all sorts of places, but they don't necessarily carry it in the store. And at the end of this article, it just seems like, we're talking about monopolies, we're talking about the fight between Amazon and Penguin Random House, and the industry is about to get much, much smaller with more jobs cut because there are fewer publishing houses. There's still hope that the big behemoths, the big 4 to 5, whatever, aren't going to completely dominate the market, because there is the option for indie press and self-publishing that will work in new ideas. But let me know what you think on the Simon & Schuster Penguin Random House merger in the comments down below, and we will get on to the last story of the day, Parler. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. But there has been some blacklisting of individuals I feel like individuals is the best word. Just for using the platform, just for having a login in the platform. Earlier this week, I even heard of somebody who lost their book deal, their book contract, because they didn't use Parler. They didn't have any posts or anything, but they had a username on the website that was connected to their phone number, and so their publisher canceled their contract. So let's go over this article really quick. Nolte Corporate Media threatens to blacklist Parler and Substack for refusing its blacklist. This comes from Breitbart.com, so take that as you will. Those of us paying attention can see exactly what's happening to Parler and Substack. The corporation media are now looking to deplatform platforms that refuse to deplatform. Put another way, the corporate media are looking to blacklist and bully platforms that refuse to blacklist and bully. Remember a couple of years ago when they said, well, if you don't like how Twitter moderates its website, then go and make your own? And that's when like Gab and Minds and a couple of other websites showed up to be alternates to Twitter. But then the people that used Twitter and the mainstream media did everything in their power they could to delegitimize or to knock those off of being usable, because you're not. And then they also got, I think they got Gab kicked out of American servers, and I think Gab is now hosted on servers in Europe somewhere. because apparently even if you make your own website because you don't want to use Twitter, they want to cancel your choices. Sounds great. Whether or not Donald Trump ends up winning second term, 2020 was a major wipeout for the corporate media, proof that they are almost a non-existent influence. So more than ever, they are desperate to recapture that influence by eliminating competition in the war of ideas by creating a monopoly where only their ideas are allowed, because again, you get banned on Twitter if you post the wrong pronouns or learn to code. So you can't even have ideas. As a fascist, far-left media outlets like Vox, The New Yorker, The Intercept, etc. chase talent away with their blacklists of ideas, and as fascist social media outlets like Facebook and Twitter chase users away with their blacklisting of ideas and people, the blacklisted and those who fear being blacklisted are seeking platforms that do not engage in blacklisting. Two recent examples: a whole lot of Twitter users are moving over to Parler, and those fleeing the woke fascism currently eating its way through corporate-run journalism like a bone cancer. Leftists like Glenn Greenwald and Matt Iglesias and aging conspiracy theorists like Andrew Sullivan are heading over to Substack. Naturally, the preening and insecure fascists in corporate media are not happy about any of this. Why? Because they lose power. The Twitter alternative, Parler, has been under attack for more than a week now. Parler's sin? Well, at Parler, you're allowed to say whatever you want without fear of being canceled, blacklisted, censored, shadow banned, or whatever. CNN and the New York Times have entire divisions devoted to bullying and threatening platforms into censoring and blacklisting ideas and people whom they disagree with. The left-wing Columbia Journalism Review is freaking out and pressuring Substack to censor and blacklist ideas and the truth that CJR would not prefer revealed. Quoting CJR, it says, "But often adherence to neutrality only enforces existing power structures. In these moments, Substack's founders veer into unsettling corporate tech dude speak, papering over the fact that a non-ideological vision is, of course, ideology just the same. When Andrew Sullivan joined Substack over the summer, he put the company's position to the test, infamous for publishing excerpts from The Bell Curve, a book that promotes bigoted race science. Sullivan would now produce The Weekly Dish, a political newsletter. Substack's content guidance draws the line at hate speech. Sullivan's Substack quickly rose to become the fifth most read among paid subscriptions. He claimed that his income had risen from less than $200,000 at the New York magazines to $500,000. When I asked the founders if they thought that the presence might discourage other writers from joining, they gave me a pat reply, quote, "We're not a media company," Best said. "If somebody joins the company and expects us to have an editorial position or be rigorously enforcing some ideological line, this is probably not the company that they want to join in the first place." CJR's threat of boycott there is obvious. CJR is planting a seed, not only that but with Substack subscribers and contributors, that allowing an Andrew Sullivan or certain ideas on the platform could very well cause people to boycott Substack. That's a nice company you've got there. Be a shame if anything happened to it, sort of thing. This thing up here where they go, by saying that you're neutral, then you're enforcing existing power structures, is the same thing that if you look at when I read How to Be an Anti-Racist, where they said, well, if you say that you're colorblind or if you treat everybody equally, then you're still a racist because blah, blah. It's doublespeak to make you treat people differently based on immutable characteristics, and it is by definition bias and racism, and it's trying to use your own feelings against you so you don't think clearly and you respond with guilt and by bowing the knee. One of the big things that comes up with alt tech or alt opportunities is to mislabel it into something that people don't want to be labeled with, and so they stay away from it. You know, a lot of us moved away from Twitter or stay further away from Twitter because of the toxic environment that's around it, you know, with the ganging up on people for every little tiniest thing, even just art, just having fun drawing art. And so you look for somewhere else to go, but the way that they have power over you is by keeping you in their circle. So if you try to find alternatives, these same people that want you to only have certain ideas are going to try and threaten you to get you back in the corral where you have to abide by the correct ideas. And that's where it comes into the real world where I mentioned at the beginning of this segment. And that's where we get back into how this affects the real world that I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, where somebody lost a publishing contract because they were they had a name on the website. That's because this is a control mechanism to hurt you so that you only have the certain ideas. Because if they can stop you from thinking certain things, then those in control can control your mind. So never really trust people that want to limit your options, because it's never for good reasons. You should always be allowed to ask questions. You should always be looking to ask questions. And it's a scary place to be when you've got, you know, these people threatening to ruin your life or to ruin your career. But guess what? Step through that fire of that fear of their threats, and you'll see that there are so many other people on the other side who are there to support you for your ideas, for who you are, not for not for the person that someone else wants you to be. Anyway, I'm fried. I am so fried. I don't even know what I just said. So forgive the sloppiness of this video. I tried. That's all I'm gonna say. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the stories mentioned in this video in the comments down below. If you have any suggestions for topics you'd like me to discuss in the future, I'm losing my ability to talk. Please let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoy this sort of content, like, subscribe for more, and I will see you next time. Don't die. I will try to do the same. Have a good week. Dear Madam Astra, that's me. We regret to inform you that on August 1st, your employer, Agatha Jane Benedict, owner of the Benedict estate, peacefully passed away in her sleep. Oh, that's so sad. Wait. Let me try that again. Oh my goodness. That's so sad. Yeah, I think I'm ready. With millions of dollars on the line and the opportunity for your every need to be taken care of for life, tell me, is there anything more valuable than that? I didn't think so. Dead End Drive is a dark comedy novel that makes 3 promises. 1, an illustrious estate in Louisiana. 2, an opulent dinner affair for all in attendance. And 3, and most importantly of all, lots and lots of competitive murder. So if you're looking for a cozy book to settle in with for the spooky season, I've only got one question for you. Will I see you at the will reading?